That was wonderful, very rousing. And when we sing these songs, I remember that last song we sang at Luigi, my brother's somewhat ceremony. And when we sing these songs, I don't know, we've been singing them for so many years, some of us, the older ones. I see all these faces and all these like smiling faces singing, and yeah, really, really moving. I would now like to invite Elliot's gonna give a testimony, and I think some announcements after that. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to all those on Zoom as well. So just a few announcements to start with. Today at 7 p.m, YSP are hosting a movie night. The movie is The Great Green Wall, which was released in 2019. True Mother's got a vested interest in the Saharan part of Africa, and this movie explores the sustainable development of this area. So YSP have been working hard in Africa with Dr. Yoon and UPF. So today we're hosting a movie night on Zoom to shed some light on the situation there. That's at 7 p.m, and I'll send out the link later. Also next week, next Sunday the 13th, we have an interfaith event in Birmingham in the Al Mahdi Institute. I know they also have been working really hard to organise that. Uncle Chris Frith has kindly offered to take anyone from West Country there, and I'll be driving up also if anyone wants to catch it. That'll be next Sunday. For those of you who attended the Chombo event recently, there's one in Albania and one here. I sent out all the holy candles. The holy candles were to represent the tree of all things. It's, if you like, this renewal of continual blessings and a renewal of material blessings for you. If you didn't receive one, I sent out a candle to everyone who replied to my email or text me saying they attended. But if you attended and didn't let me know, please let me know. I have spare candles to send out. That being said, there is another Chombo event, if you did miss out, in Israel on November the 25th to the 26th. I'll send out an email with all the notifications. So if you did miss any Chombo events or would like to attend again, please let me know. And again, there's another opportunity to receive the holy candle. Unfortunately, on this occasion, you can only receive the holy candle if you registered for the Chombo and attended. So yeah, please keep that in mind. So I'd like to share a little bit about our recent time in Kosovo and North Macedonia. Thank you for all those who donated. So I just wanted to report on the activities we have there. So YSP went there with the aim of training university lecturers and students and setting up a peace club. So YSP have a training program called Peace Designer Training, which aims to empower youth and young students to create their own projects. And actually on the it's the 19th, no, sorry, 26th of this month on Saturday via Zoom, I'll be delivering the Peace Designer training for anyone who's interested between the ages of 11 and 30. So we went to Kosovo and North Macedonia to train university lecturers who are really interested in having this Peace Designer training running in their universities, and to set up a Peace Designer club where students can come, discuss issues that are related to them, and then create projects to solve these problems. I was completely blown away by the enthusiasm of the deans of the universities, the professors of the university, and we met the ex-president of Kosovo, who helped form Kosovo into an independent nation in 2008. And I found that these people we spoke to and students we spoke to on campus were more enthusiastic about peace than some of us, or myself even. And this word peace gets thrown around a lot, but these people speaking so highly of UPF, so highly of True Mother, and so highly of YSP that they were genuinely excited. They wanted us to start immediately. And we filled several lecture halls over with students interested to come and talk about peace and talk about issues. And I'm hoping that we can try and bring some of this spirit back. The second generation, we have an issue where we have good experiences, but I feel we don't always apply them into our lives. We leave them behind. So I'm hoping that the team who went, which was Jamie, myself, Viola, and Alma, can bring some of those experiences back to our communities and make sure those experiences change our lives, and we allow those experiences to change us. So we were incredibly moved by the enthusiasm that we received from these such high-level people. I found myself, we were having a coffee. I was speaking to a professor of international law in North Macedonia, and she's a representative for North Macedonia in the UN and NATO. And it was good. I couldn't believe I was talking to her about peace. And there's me, an ex-primary school teacher, not much more qualified than that, to be honest with you. I'm not qualified to even have a coffee with this lady. So I really felt that God's pushing me to study more and to try and make a bigger difference in the community. It's something that I've had on my mind this year. And for those of you who have done public mission or pastorship, you know, I can be incredibly lonely at times with extreme highs and extreme lows. So I felt really re-energized that, you know, these such high level people had so much interest and faith in ourselves. Interestingly, I had a bit of a Jonah the whale situation a few months ago. So at the end of August, there was a mad rush to get pastors and people in our community signed up to UTS, get signed up for masters or the doctoral program. And there was such a mad rush and miscommunication that I decided not to in the end. But they offered me a course on the divine principle, which I accepted to do. But again, with miscommunications, as often the case in our movement, then 3 weeks passed and I wasn't enrolled, and then he sent me this massive bill, which infuriated me, to be honest with you. So I sent him a bit of a blunt email, dropping out immediately. But funnily enough, then, though, a few days after that, I had a tax rebate, which was for exactly the same amount that the bill was asking for. And I had an apology from UTS saying, "Oh, we're really sorry, we were meant to send this to Dr. Mike Falcon to cover everyone's fees, or parts of everyone's fees, not just your own." But I'd already dropped out to that point. So going to Kosovo, North Macedonia, I really felt like God was pushing me to study more and to educate myself more. Because God's really looking for people in communities now, people of action and people of status, to really try and make a larger impact. So that was a really great experience for us. So I hope that we can try and bring something back. We have several projects actually upcoming. Jamie and I are co-organising a basketball tournament later in the month. That'll be in Barry. So, so I'll notify you about that when we have more details. I believe Viola is also organising singing lessons and training in Birmingham, and Alma's also organising a photography workshop in London. So hopefully we can try and bring some inspiration back to the communities. If anyone would like to follow the journey, if you go to www.yspuk.org, testimonies and videos are all on our website and YouTube channel. Thank you.
So, like again for song.
All right. Well, let it rest. I thought we should. Let it rest. 54. 38 in the old one.
Yeah, 38.
Okay. 38. Okay. All I will take, I give your love, I give my name, shall away. All I will take, sing my praise, real strong and I live my life and my love unto the one God of love. Oh, my country, my is mine, I the sky.
Thank you. I really agree how inspiring it is to hear that our young people are doing amazing things. All of you are, I really hope that young people in our region, we're really proud of our region, we're really proud in Wales to be in Welsh, and it's so wonderful really that we have also many young people here, and I really pray, I really hope that we can all somehow get involved and build a really wonderful community, not just here, but of course across the regions. Just a couple of things. After, I think it's Sunday school now for the young people, so I think Rachel is taking you guys somewhere to do something exciting. But after lunch, there will be an activity here for the younger ones with kayaks and cake decorating, I believe, and maybe cake eating afterwards, hopefully. I don't know. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you. I believe also the donation box has been gotten at home today, so we do have a sandwich box over there, taking donations for anyone who feels they might like to put something in. And I would now like to welcome Ron, who's going to talk about, I believe, his experience in Africa. So we can welcome Ron.
Yep, thank you very much. Just before I start, I just want to point out there's a couple of tables full of books and DVDs in that on the side. You can help yourself to anything or everything. I don't want to take anything home, just the boxes under the table I need to take back, but help yourself, please. They're some very nice ones. So yeah, I went to Zimbabwe recently, and it was a trip to visit my tribe, but at the same time, we have tribes, we have members who have tribes there, and there's 4 couples who have tribes right up in the very north of Zimbabwe. So I said to them, well, look, I want to go and visit my tribe, and if you like, I will visit your tribes, because they're all working, they don't have much time. So they agreed. Not only did they agree, but they offered to pay my expenses for the trip. which was hallelujah, praise the Lord, thank God and everything, because I didn't have any money. And you know, we've been praying for blessing, material blessing. So in these ways, the material blessing has been coming. Anyway, that's a little bit beside the point. The point was that I could go and represent them. And I don't know how many of you have been to Africa, but it's a place of magic. Well, it's not very clear there, but anyway, the reason that's short, because I want to show you something, a short video of the welcome that I received from my tribe, but also from the representatives of the 4 tribes that I was going to meet on behalf of the couples here in the UK. So this is, let me see now. Okay. Great. So that's the, you wouldn't have understood a word that they were singing because it was in the local language, which is called the Shona language. Let me see, where's F5? There we go. I didn't understand a word either, but it was nice to really feel that kind of welcome. This is typical of the Africans. They are such beautiful people, and Africa is such a wonderful continent. And Zimbabwe is really, in its days, you could say under the colonial rule, it was so developed and so beautiful. In the days when the former President Mugabe took over, it was just a stunning place, like a paradise. You had flowers on trees and all sorts of things. But unfortunately, you know, politicians don't always do the best with what they have and basically ruin the country. So now it's really struggling, and but the people are just so beautiful, and they love the British people for the most part. They love the British people. So if ever you have a chance to go to Zimbabwe, you'll be more than welcome. So the magic of Africa, let me see now if I get this right. It should move to the next one. Most of you will know that Catherine and myself became national messiahs for Chad, which is really up here, sub-Saharan part of the country. But because of terrorism, we decided that we couldn't really risk going there anymore. I mean, it was a serious problem. But because of the sister Lynn, who worked here in the Wales, in Cardiff for many years, 12 years she was part of our community here. So through her, then I managed to establish a tribe for our couple in Zimbabwe. I went there, as most of you already know, I spent some time there in 2018. And then with planning to go back, but then with the COVID outbreak, it just didn't happen until this year. So Zimbabwe is right down here. It's a landlocked country. Mozambique one side, Lesotho on one side, South Africa and Angola. So this is Zimbabwe, and Harare, the capital, is here. This is where I landed and stayed. I spent some time. But our tribes actually are up in the north in a region called Magawe, and the tribes of the other couples are further north in Mazurabani, which I will come to in a short while. So just to zoom in a little bit, Mount Darwin is actually a region, and it's where I went was about 3 hours from Harare, and could meet our tribe there, and then coming back and the rest the next day, and then the day after we went up to Zurabani in Mashonaland and spent the night there. So this is the Peace Embassy in Harare where I stayed, and I had an option of going to the lodging, but I think, you know, when all is said and done, there's nothing to beat staying in a Peace Embassy. Okay, most of the time there's no electricity and there's no running water, but hey, that's Africa, you know, you get used to these things. But the place, this is really a very beautiful place. It was in its day, but although the place was bought, there wasn't the money to develop it. So it's still kind of in its somewhat rundown state, but it's used for workshops and various things. So then from there, we left on the first trip up to Mount Darwin. And all along the road where there is population, you see people making their money, selling their cold drinks, their crisps, their popcorns, just about anything. Sometimes you'll see people with a stand selling light shades, and you know, the most kind of unusual things on the side of the road. Although the country is quite poor and the economy is really bleak, you know, the African people generally are very creative, and they will find ways to make money. They will find ways to sell something, and they do. So everywhere you go, on street corners, along the roads, people are selling. Sometimes they're at the traffic lights, 2 or 3 people holding up various things, bottles of water or whatever to sell. So very, very active, dynamic people. And in the climate, the hot climate, they will spend all day out in the hot sun, which reminds me of the song, is it No Coward? Only mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. So they spend all day like that, and they just get on with their lives. We have one sister, Juliet. In 2018, she used to go with a wheelbarrow, these cooler boxes filled with Coca-Cola and anything else she could manage, and then sell the bits and pieces. But lo and behold, in 2022, she graduated and expanded her business and is now pushing a big trolley full of cold drinks, and also, you know, she's very small and very slight, and that's really heavy. When I was there in 2018, I helped her one time to push a wheelbarrow up the road, and my goodness, I could barely manage it. But there we are, you know, the Africans, they have no choice. That's their life, and they get on with it. They try not to complain, and they just deal with it all. The plan now is eventually to get a shop, and that would be moving on. I just want to show you that, to show the simplicity of life and how people make effort to do whatever they can do to make money. So this now is a typical rural village. We're traveling up to the Mount Darwin region that I pointed out to you, and along the way you see these little villages. These are huts these are brick huts, and the people make the bricks themselves out of the soil and a bit of straw, whatever. But that's how they manage there. Along the way, we stopped in a small town, and this was a local market with loads of fresh vegetables. And although, you know, some of it was kind of very almost raw looking, I'm pretty sure the taste of this stuff is better than what you find in Morrison's or some of our supermarkets. It's all fresh from the land. And there was one place we stopped. It was like a little lay-by, and there's all these ladies there with little metal basins full of bananas and other stuff. So you arrive, you stop at this little lay-by, and suddenly you're swamped by all these ladies poking their basins through the window trying to sell you their bananas. So what the brother, who was one of the brothers who was with us, did, he would buy from a few different ones. So at least the people felt we were not just taking all from one, but trying to spread the blessing around, if you like. But that's very typical. This is a small market town with their vegetables and so on. Carrying on up then towards our area, anthills, you'll see these every 50 meters or so, 2-3 meters high, huge things. This is the kind of road that we were traveling on once we moved out of the city. There is a tarmac road which goes all the way up to the north, but it's quite a bad road. And in actual fact, Zimbabwe has the second highest road deaths per population in the whole world, which was a bit scary on the way back, I can tell you, from one place we went. But otherwise, you know, you move off the tarmac and you're driving on dirt tracks like this. So I'm taking a picture from the car. I was sitting in the front and trying to appreciate what was all around us. We got to the region of Mount Darwin, and this is the Bishop Chaboya and his wife. This is the couple that are actually leading the tribe. When we say the tribe, what really is, it's like a population of people, and we receive, like say in the case of a tribe, 430 couples or X number of couples. So they are a part of that population. So we call them a tribe maybe for our benefit. They have the tribe, or they're leaders of the tribe, but the tribe is much more than 430 couples. It just happens that, as I said, for our benefit, it's divided up so that we can have a certain number. It's a bit like in the days when we did home church, as we have an area in the city, but we take 360 couples, 360 home area, and that's how we work. So this is the church, main church office. This here is the church hall, if you like. This is akin to where we are right now. And it looks very basic. It is very basic, and in some ways very primitive. But consider that for most of the year, the people are living in a hot climate. You don't have to worry that it's going to suddenly turn cold or it's suddenly going to start to rain. Once the dry season starts, that's it pretty much then for months and months and months. So outdoor living is quite normal, and it's, in some ways you could say it's a pleasure. There are downsides to it, of course, but you know, that's how it is. So it's very common to see big groups of religious people just gathering and singing and having their services outdoors in a field or in some park or something like that. So this was our meeting place. And when I arrived, already there had been people who'd been waiting since 8 o'clock in the morning, a bit like us, you know, singing and praying and dancing and doing whatever they're doing, waiting for these so-called VIPs to come along. Anyway, we arrived and we had such a warm welcome from all these people. It was so nice. And following this service then, I was given a chance to look around the whole area. And I could see that, for example, this is the men's toilet. Basically, it's just a brick structure with a kind of hole in the ground someplace. Again, that's their life. That's what they are used to. Washing it, or rather cooking, this would be for us like a barbecue, an outdoor barbecue, which is great in the summer. Lovely sunshine, you cook your meat, you do whatever. But that's almost all the year round for them. And then when they wash up their pots and that, they let them to dry on something like this in the midday sun. It's very hot, so things dry naturally. And in its way, it's quite clean. So then this over here now is one of the wells that they have. They dig the holes, and they have about 4 or 5 wells. Most, I would say 3 of them were not finished. They hadn't reached water. But 2 of them, they reached water, but they were pretty much dry. There was a little bit of water in one of them. This one here, there was a bit of water in the bottom. This is the area where they grow vegetables and stuff like that. And at the moment, they were struggling because this time of the year is coming to the end of the dry season, the sunny season. So the next part then is the rains come. But because it's the end of the season, the water's drying up, the vegetables are struggling, and it is very difficult to grow anything. This is characteristic of many parts of Africa in the rural areas. The cities are a little bit more developed in most cases, but the rural areas are really challenged. This particular community is actually a religious community already, but the lady, they met our movement and they've accepted true parents. And the lady, Mrs. Chiboya here, she had visions and revelations of true parents. And in actual fact, she had a vision where she was taken, she's very spiritual, she's more in the spirit world than she is on this physical world. But she was guided by Jesus and other saints, and they went to true parents. At some point she stopped, but she had to wait. And then she saw Jesus and other people bowing down to true parents. So when you have that kind of experience, you know, goodness me, I've been here how many years, and I've never had that kind of experience. But somehow, for her, when she sees Jesus bowing to true parents, suddenly she realizes how awesome true father is and true mother. She realizes. So now she goes around, you can't see it even on the back of her jersey as the second coming of the Messiah, the true parents, this kind of thing. And always, their only mission now, he runs a few shops, which is how they finance themselves, but their only mission now is to witness to true parents, to teach people. So every weekend, they're inviting people to this area, their church area, and they're teaching people the principle. It's extraordinary when you consider how difficult it is in the developed world to teach about true parents. It's so hard, but there people are far more open and far more innocent. So this is their church area, and the brothers who are in this area sleep in this place here. This is kind of like a plastic sheeted structure. Actually, on the day we were there, it was very windy, and you can see all of this is torn and broken and just ready to fall down. But they just renew it, they buy more plastic and get on with it. Then after the service, we all shared some meal together, we sang, we joined like this, and then finally, of course, you know, how can you have a meeting without a group photo? Huh? So we have Bishop Chiboya and his wife, and then two leading couples in this front row. They are supporting him, and then you've got the other couples there. These were representatives of all our tribe. And to be quite honest, although we have our 430 couples, the reality now is that most of those couples probably don't even know that they're blessed. They don't even know what this is all about. So in a way, we have to start almost from the beginning and build up a foundation all over again. And I think for many of the couples with their tribes, it's the same thing. In fact, they had a problem because at one point, when they were blessed, all the couples had their photographs taken, and there was a number so that when we received the album with all the photos and numbers, later on, many of these people wondered, why did they take our photos? And they got very upset and quite negative. And a lot of African people believe that if you take a photograph of them, you're taking their spirit. So they were worried about that. You know, there's the traditional superstitious way of life is intermingled with the Christian traditions as well. So anyway, that's been, you know, a point along the way. We have to really educate and develop everything. But at least there are many couples who are solid, stable, and recently we paid for 12 couples to do a 2-day workshop. So we know the foundation is building. When I went there, I gave them a copy of the Chanson Dion and some of True Father's biographies. Then, when we came back, it was an exhausting day because the journey was quite long, but then I had a chance to rest the next day. And the following day, I went up to the north, to the far north of Mazurabani, which is near the Mozambique border. And along the way, many villages, but we passed through an area which is called the Mazurabani Wilderness. And you're going over a high mountain range, which is basically jungle. But at this time of year, because everything is dried up, then the jungle looks pretty arid, actually. Along the way, we saw signs for elephants. We were passing through an area of elephants. I saw no elephants, but I saw loads of them droppings. But I did see baboons. And although this is not really, this is a bit of a cheat because that's not my photograph. But the baboons were sitting on the side of the road, just like that. And then along the way, then we stopped to take some photographs of the area, which is by here. And then just over by there, a whole troop of baboons were chasing a goat. Now, lots of goats and cows are wandering around, and I guess they just make their way home at night time. But baboons love goats. They love to eat them, eh? So they were chasing this goat down here, and I was watching them chase it down, and the poor goat, you know, running for its life. And that's how it is. You know, everything is it's kind of, well, how can you explain it really? It's survival. Even the people are struggling to survive. But the animals, it's kill and be killed. That's how it is. But that's life. And I struggled a lot with this idea of the brutality of animals, the way they kill, the way they chase and kill, and the fear in an animal's eyes. But then gradually I came to understand that, first of all, in the creation, the best, the strongest must survive. So when animals need food, and they'll chase a young, they'll chase an elderly or a sick and kill it and eat it. And the animal is running for its life. And this is, if you think about the principle, this is just the instinct for individual survival. Their desire to survive. We all have it. All creation has this individual desire to survive. But then there is the aspect of the greater good. When you see an animal that is being chased and hounded and brought down, there is a moment you can see into the animal's eyes and it looks like it's given up. It's accepted its fate, which is to be killed and eaten. Of course, doesn't have any concept of dying and being eaten. All it senses is this instinct for survival. But then there is that moment when it kind of switches off and the animal then is eaten by whatever has captured it. In this case, probably the goats. And the goat was captured by the thing. So coming back then, where is this? Harare is down here. So this is the long journey up. The whole journey should have taken about 5 hours. But you'll see in a moment why you have to go with a decent vehicle, a 4x4, the right kind of vehicle. Anyway, this is the area where we were going over the mountains, where we see the animals and the elephant droppings and so on. And then this is the A12 then, which goes all the way up to Zambia, or maybe still Mozambique. But we took a right turn here and went across this area, which is pretty much a desert. Not literally a desert, but all the road was, as I showed you earlier, dirt track. And in the rainy season, which will be starting anytime, all that will become impassable. The road just becomes a bog, and nobody can get through. It just becomes a mess. And then we went to a village by here. This whole region is Mzurabani. But anyway, that's where we went. And oh dear. So we went in a Honda Jazz. Well, here we call them a Honda Jazz. There they call it a Honda Fit. But I can tell you that car was not fit for anything. It was supposed to be a hired car. I gave $300 for a vehicle to be hired. And I knew what it was. The leader asked one of the members to find a car, to hire a car. And he found a friend of his who lives in this region and hired his car. So they paid it. But this was a wreck. From the moment we left, it was falling to bits. And so we got going up the mountain. First of all, it kept stopping. It couldn't handle the mountain. And we had to get out and walk a bit while the engine cooled down. Ironic, isn't it? In the hot temperatures, the engine has to cool down, and then it could go a bit further. So we kept breaking down in these out-of-the-way places, and that's how it is. But you can see the kind of road it is. It's rocky, bumpy, all this kind of loose, muddy sand. And anyway, what can you do? I experienced the same thing in Chad. And when we broke down in Chad in this desert, I said, how long is this going to take? He said, well, it could take anything from a few hours to a week. So you see why the Africans are so patient. They just digest it all. Anyway, we did manage to get to our destination. Along the way, we saw people with their carts pulled by either donkeys or cows, things like this. And a much better mode of transport in that area than our little Honda Fit. More villages. This is again very typical. And here you can see these are high structures where people put things up high because in the nighttime animals come around. It could be hyenas, it could be anything, wild dogs, that will eat anything that's at the level. Even the goats will grab anything that they can. So they keep things fairly high up. This is the village of the leader of the tribe that we were visiting, and that's his house there. Moving on, there it is again, and that's another part of his house. There's the kitchen, and I guess the women lived in there. There's quite a few people living in this little compound. But very nice, very warm and welcoming they were. And then when we had our meeting with all the representatives of these different tribes, we met in the school, which is about 250 meters from that leader's house that I just showed you. And down here you can see a well. This is a typical well that people use, and that serves the whole community. So here you can see somebody with the donkeys and a cart and their buckets, their barrels. They fill up with water. They may come from 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers, fill up their things with water, and then they take them back. So the well serves the whole community. But the problem here, there's supposed to be a kind of a runoff where the animals can drink water, but it's pretty dry, and so the animals end up just drinking maybe from the same source as the people. Although, of course, with the people, it's coming out of the well. The animals, nevertheless, are still there. But a very relaxed kind of life, and there's not the people are aware of their suffering in that they are materially quite poor, but they get on with life, you know. As somebody said to me when I was in Chad, you know, I said, it's so hard, how do you manage? He said, what do you mean, how do we manage? I live here, what choice have I got? And I realized, of course, it's true. When you're visiting, it's one thing, but when you live there, it's something else. But I also, of course, appreciated that black people have different skin, thicker skin to white people. Their hair is thicker, so they can resist the heat better than white people. We just burn and shrivel up. So this was the school, Mutamakunga Primary School, and the well that serves it. This is the typical classrooms, a few benches over there and tables, and these are the toilets, which again, this is the girls' part. Over there, there's a boys' part. And it's just, you go in and there's a hole in the ground, and that's it. This is an access for disabled, this part here, it's a disabled toilet here. So they're very conscious of all these differences, and they try really hard to make something out of what they've got. The church community, this is their compound. Of course, this is the same picture, just a bit further over. You can see how they look for things like solar panels like this one. They can charge a car battery, and they can get a little bit of light in the evening. Here, there was a church service going on while I was there, and the pastor took me to introduce me to this community of people. But then they live in all of these little structures. They're all basically tree branches built into a kind of a cabin type thing, covered in plastic sheeting or straw, depending on the situation, I suppose. Food, that's interesting because they have specialities. For example, they have what they call the palmer worms. These are actually caterpillars from the, what is the emperor butterfly, the emperor moth. And I didn't, fortunately, get a chance to eat any of this. I would have struggled, honestly. But I was given a breakfast. We stayed overnight, and for breakfast they gave me a plate of stew with this black stuff in it, these black lumps. And I had a feeling it was something that I would not like. But they also gave me some slices of bread, normal sliced bread. So they also have this here, which is called salsa. It is like a maize, which is it's really heavy stuff. They eat it with their fingers. They dip it into the stew and then they eat it. But it's okay. It's good, but it's so heavy. And when I was in Chad and I had that, after a day or two, I couldn't eat it anymore. So the brother who was with me, he understood my situation. So he arranged something. When we had the meal with all the people, he arranged something else for me. But anyway, coming back to this, the morning when we stayed overnight, we had breakfast. they had all this black stuff in this plate. So what I could do is I could eat the stew tasted okay, and I could dip the bread in it. And because there were 3 slices of bread, I could fill myself up with bread dipped in stew. But I think they were being generous to me because I was a visitor. They gave me so much of this meat. And I just knew it was something I would not like. And it was liver. It was really some black liver, but I don't even know from what animal. But I kind of, with mopping the stew up, could push the meat aside. And then it looked like I'd eaten some of the meat. So I said, oh, it's just too much for me now. And I could give it out to everybody, and they ate it happily. So you just have to be aware that sometimes they'll give you something for them, which is really a delicacy, like these worms. I don't know how I would have handled that if I knew them of those things. But I didn't have to deal with that. God was merciful to me, I can tell you. Isn't it funny? Culturally, we are so. I mean, when my son Patrick went to Ghana, he was eating rats, and you think rats eating rats, but you know it's just meat until you have to eat it yourself. So then what next? That's I could go on a long haul, but of course there's limited time and everything. I met with the groups individually, and we sat around and everybody shared their situation. Everybody told me what their issues were when it came to surviving. And for most people, it was really survival. There's a very basic level. And just to bring it to an end now, I made a little list of the main things. Invariably, with all the people I was talking with, the main problem was water. Without water, it's difficult for them to grow anything. They can't get water, it's down in the ground, and you know, they just struggle with it. They said they need wells, they need water tanks, clinics. The nearest clinic to this place was 18 kilometers away, and it wasn't even a standard, like a hospital standard. So they said we need a clinic that at least has a higher standard, like a hospital. Schools, education for the children is badly needed. Many children go to different primary schools, but when the rains come, all the water covers everything. The bridges get covered, and they can't get to school. So then, in this region, there is a big problem when the rains come, that the people are just stuck there. Interestingly, the head of what's called the headman, he's responsible for more than 40 villages. He gave our movement a large piece of land in this area, and he said we can build on it, we can do what we like. So I've been liaising with these other 4 couples whose tribes are among these people, with plans now to start developing, to put a well on the land, to start growing vegetables, to then start thinking about creating a building, making a building which can be used for services, for meetings, for education of children, for activities of all sorts of things. Everything is there to be done. So then there's all sorts of things that are needed, micro businesses. One lady said to me, a few ladies actually said, if we could get sewing machines, we can make things, we can make clothes, we can make stuff, but they can't even get these things. Many ideas for farming projects, but the main issue is water. Houses, they need to be more secure. Sometimes roofs blow off when the winds come and the rains come. But that's it, they have to just repair them and get on. So even the lead-in pastor, his house, I said to him, well, what happens when the rain comes? Yeah, he said the water comes in everywhere. Just, that's how it is. So, you know, but the good thing is it's not freezing, it's not cold. So at least they can cope. I mean, they cope because they have no choice. So for myself now, and this is something I'm looking into, how to start a charity that can serve this area. And I was thinking of brothers and sisters, you know, because Father said Europe plundered Africa, and therefore Europe needs to give back to Africa. And I thought, well, if we can find ways of working together, maybe create a charity, maybe we can create funds that can start to provide water, dig wells, and then expand the activities so that people can develop.
If you see,
I said to these members that these other couples who I represented, that I'm happy to go back. I'm happy to go and help to develop whatever needs to be developed. But, you know, we have to find a way of creating the funds and so on. And I think that a lot can be done with very little. Very little from us can be a lot for them. For example, to put a decent well in, you need to put down about 70 meters in this area. And it costs about £2,500 or dollars rather. So you see, one well can serve a whole area. And there's other things that we can do which maybe cost less, things that might cost more. But at least I'm thinking how to develop things, and maybe, you know, we can do something as a community, or maybe we can just reach out and advertise so other people can contribute. But it's just early days, and that's what I'm exploring right now. Anyway, that's where we are at, and with that, I want to conclude and say thank you very much for listening, and that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Very much. It makes you feel what a legacy in one life, isn't it? So many times, I know last time you went to Zimbabwe, it was a real struggle, wasn't it?
It was this time as well.
Oh, and also this time, so yeah, that kind of legacy of a life, it makes me reflect on my own life and think, gosh, I think I need to do something a little bit more out there, really. Isaac myself, who's always, every day he's got a new saying for me or something, and he said to me, strong men create good times, but good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times then create strong men. And so the cycle goes. And I look at that and I think, gosh, you know, maybe the whole world order is going to change, where these people have had such difficulty for so long. It must be creating incredible men and women there who will maybe come up and lead the world. Whereas in our own culture, maybe the good times we've had, look at our politicians, they've created such weak people. Yeah, so that was very incredible to hear. We'll now have a short reflection, Bernard, if you don't mind. Thank you. Very much, and that brings our Sunday service to a close today. So thank you so much for attending. I hope we can share together now a little bit more here. And for everyone on Zoom, thank you so much for attending. And I hope we can all get together soon again. If I could just ask Peter, would you mind closing for us? Thank you, and have a good week, everybody.
Most beloved parent, thank you so much for this beautiful morning, beautiful gathering, beautiful singing. beautiful sharing, beautiful testimony from our older brother, Ron German. Father, we're sorry that some different parts of the world are living in, they're living with struggles. And when we reflect on our own situation, we are blessed with material things. We're blessed so much. And Heavenly Father, at this moment, we know there is no balance. We hope that our community, we can somehow pull together the resources to support other nations that are living with struggles and despair. Father, we thank you for taking us to a journey today that can help us to see the other side of the world. Father, we are Heavenly Father, we want to repent, and we thank you so much, Father, for this. We offer this our prayer to you in my name, Peter Kong, member of the Central Blessed Family, Archie.
Thank you, everyone. Let's have lunch. Thank you, everyone on Zoom. That concludes service for today. Thank you for joining, and see you Sunday next week for our interfaith service, which I'm very much looking forward to. Thank you, everyone.